Okay, welcome back. Chapter 5, another action-packed chapter that we are going to discuss with Lenny from the book Resilient, Achieving the American Dream. This is something so important, I think, to a young person's life, and I'd like you to discuss it. You have this quote, "A whole lot of money making, but not a whole lot of thriving."
Mm-hmm.
That is so important for any young person, I think, to hear. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. The average American does not have access to an emergency fund of $1,000, right? You can look it up, right? The fact is, America is built on the backs of hardworking people of all kinds. In the community that I grew up in, there were not a lot of high-paying jobs. I don't know how my grandparents made it. I don't know how my mother made it with a stepfather that was half-assed. I don't know how some of my friends' parents made it, but they made it. So, with that statement that I made in the book, and going back to what I said earlier, with people defining what success means to them, I would like to say that in their minds and in their lives, they were probably thriving. But what I know now, how I reflect on it and see it now, I stand by what I wrote in the book. I know what I saw. I saw a lot of people making money, but I did not see a lot of people thriving. Thriving in a way that those rich white people were thriving, right? The Rolls Royces, the horses, the trips, the private jets and stuff like that. So I saw a lot of hardworking people. I didn't see a lot of people having nice things, right? As a young kid, that's just what I saw.
Yeah, it's very interesting to, I guess, understand that hard work does not necessarily equal great outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's just a really important message. And it was interesting that you saw it and it registered with you then.
Yeah. I never understood it until I understood the economy a little bit more. I wish every era was an industrial revolution era where Americans were thriving, but it's not. You have down markets and up markets, and you have communities, pockets of communities that do not have high-paying jobs. And so, that's just the way in life, and I'm glad that I had the wherewithal to think outside the box and know that I didn't want that for me. I wanted something different.
So much so that you became the Mr. Dewdrop's bandit.
Oh, Mr. Dewdrop, I doubt if you're still alive, but if you are, I am so sorry, man. I regret that so much. In 8th grade, we used to go to Mr. Dewdrop's. It's a little market. He made sandwiches and soda. He had soda and tasty cakes and candy. And, it was just an entrepreneur from the neighborhood, an old man who was trying to make a business for himself, to make a life for himself, to provide for his family, right? And here I come, stupid little 8th grader. I'm leaving, I'm walking out the door, and I grab a tub of candy, right? And I regret that, Mr. Dewdrop, and I'm so sorry if you're still alive, and I regret that. But
the reason I bring it up is for two reasons. One, no snitches.
No snitches.
Which was interesting.
6th, 7th, and 8th graders that I took the penny candy and sold it to them for 10 cents. No one ratted me out. I guess they wanted the candy.
It sounds like it. But the other part is, did you feel bad at the time, or at the time was young Lenny's mind not able to really comprehend that?
No, I felt bad.
You did?
Yeah, 100%. Because I had a conscience, you know what I mean? I felt bad. I didn't know like today I spoke on why I felt bad, right? I spoke bad because he was a gentleman from the neighborhood, an older gentleman, because I was in middle school. So obviously he was older. It probably wasn't, that much older than maybe 30-year-old, 40-year-old entrepreneur starting a business for himself and his family. I didn't know that stuff. I couldn't think like that when I was a kid, but I felt bad because I knew it was wrong. I believe that we all know the difference between right and wrong, as we are young people coming up in the world. Our people around us teach us right and from wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was wrong. I know it was wrong, and I felt bad.
This is where in the book it starts to seem like you also had the all-American childhood. So on page 35, there is a line. The crew always rallied by word of mouth. Can you read this line?
You read it for me.
I'll try.
I want you to read that for me.
Yo, Carlos Brown and Mark Zizowitz. Go get Kurt
Zakowitz.
and Mark Zakowitz. Go get Kurt Henning, Mikey Rogus, Sean McDuffie, and Dante Lewis. Yo, Rich Williams, Barry, and Jeff Pierce. Go get Rob Horton, Kem Johnson, Johnny Carbone, Sean Chapman, and the others. Going to play ball down the library. 3 o'clock. That is the... Immediately, I'm in the Sandlot.
Yeah.
Immediately, I am back with my friends.
As you should. Yep.
The list of names being that long is what I love.
Yeah.
That is an entire crew.
Yeah.
And then another crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where I'm like, oh, Lenny did have the amazing childhood that I had, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Like, that you got to play sports with your friends. You had something to do every day, and it was interesting. But this is also where we learned out a very key thing about you. Raw ancestral talent.
Mm-hmm.
That you are about to really have a change here in the story where once it's discovered, oh, wait, I'm really good at football.
Yeah.
I'm really, really good at baseball.
Yeah. Some would say I was better at baseball than I was at football. Yeah. We played street hockey, played soccer. We played every sport, right? In addition to that, BMX bike riding.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know what a bunny hop is?
Of course I do. And this is one of my questions. This does not seem accurate. You bunny hopped.
Yeah.
A tennis court net.
Yeah.
Standard size?
Standard size.
That's like up to my hip.
Damn right.
You bunny hopped over 3 feet?
Damn right.
Probably 4 even?
Yeah. And I came back to do it the next day, and I did it. And I got a little cocky, right? So I tried to do it from farther back, put a little stick there for a little bit of help, and I went up, and my back tire got caught, and I landed on the left side of my face. So the next day, I had this big, red, like fleshy, right? Because the skin just melted off my face.
Yeah.
And I was concerned that I would look like that for the rest of the day. I mean, my life, the rest of my life. And I healed because I am so good looking, man. Look at that face. Look at the, thank you, Lord, for healing my face, man. But listen, I want to go back to the names that you mentioned in my book.
Yeah, please.
Friends. These are the same friends that were not going to go to Bishop Kenrick High School, right, which was a Catholic high school where it was a better education than what I received at Norristown High. So these are the friends that I had in mind when I turned down that scholarship.
Let's go there. So I was on the plane. So a little peek behind the curtain for people at home. I'm doing this in real time so that it's super raw and fresh in my mind so that I can ask questions that are ones that I had while I was reading it. So on page 42, it says Mama Bazemore, which I got a kick out of. That's the first time it was written in print, Mama Bazemore. Onto the field and a scholarship. On a plane full of people, I audibly went, he what?
Oh, shit.
When you didn't say yes?
Yeah.
You were out.
Yeah.
It says in the chapter before, in the chapter before, in the chapter before, you wanted to get out. You were out.
I was not out. That high school is still in Norristown. I would just go to high school. If I chose to go there, I would go to that school. I would meet all new people, and then I would come back to the same community.
And a private car would come and get you.
yes, but I would still be with the same friends that I grew up with, and that would alienate me. And I would not have had the close relationship that I still have with them today.
I could not believe it because and you do a great job in your writing of setting me up. You know, you set me up for me to be like, oh, this is the path out. He gets good at football. That leads to a better school, better outcome. That's not what happens.
College.
Because you say no.
I say no. But I had to because, you know, loyalty is a characteristic in Norristown that people hold dear to their hearts. As a matter of fact, every name that you mentioned, every name that you read in September, right?
Of what year?
This year. Each and every one of those guys, in addition to a few more, we're going to Mexico. We're going to Tulum, right? So every guy that you mentioned, in addition to a few more, I'm taking to Tulum. I already rented a villa. All they got to do is get their own airfare. And we have chef, we have excursions, we have all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So that's loyalty.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's loyalty, but also in the book at this time, you're dealing with jealousy.
A little bit.
Not from them.
Yeah, but only a little bit. And because the fact that these young kids don't know how to express themselves, right? We're not taught emotional intelligence. So it manifests. But it typically manifests in other communities as well, right? The good-looking guy gets the girl, right? I was a high school football star. I was, like, super popular. I had a pretty girlfriend, right? I get invited to the parties, the senior parties when I was in 10th grade, hanging out with the senior girls. It was like, wow, you know, this guy. So, yeah, it manifests itself naturally through any high school era, right? And so on the football field, yeah. Baseball field, yeah. Talking to girls, yeah. Yeah, all kinds of ways. But this is my specific story or recollection.
Well, outside of all the good things, you are still dealing with bullying.
Yeah. I was bullied in 5th grade, which is very traumatic, right? Talk about PTSD. My head would get slammed against the door every day.
Emmett and Jason.
Jarrett. Emmett and Jarrett would do that to me and my friend Jason, right? Who is one of my best friends to this day. We've known each other since 5 years old.
I mean, since we're there, that I think that was in the last chapter, but why did you call Jarrett?
Later in life?
Yeah.
I did not call him. He reached out to me.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't want to get into his personal business, but he was going to be visiting California for some time, and he reached out to me, and he calls me Cuz, right? Because he thought we were cousins, right? Growing up, he thought we were cousins, but...
And he still beat the shit out of you?
No, he thought we were cousins after.
Oh,
He banged my head against the door. So later he found out that we were cousins, but we were not cousins because my stepfather was not my real father, right? And so I had a different father, meaning we are not related. He reached out to me and let me know that he was going to be in Los Angeles. And I said, okay, cool. He was like, hey, man, can we meet up? I said, okay. So he's friends with a bunch of my friends. He's friends with my sister. He's friends with some of my family. So he reached out. And so, you know, I said, what's up? He was like, hey, you got time for a call? I said, yeah, I'll talk to you. So we were talking, and he told me his business and why he was going to be here. And I was like, oh, cool, you know. We just got to talking about Norristown. And then I was like, yo, man, you got something to say to me? You owe me an apology. He's like, no, Lenny, man. I was hoping you forgot about that. I said, man, how could I forget about that?
Because he knocked the memory out of your head.
Right? I said, man, you bang my head up against the door like every day. What's up? He was like, man, I'm so sorry for that. I said, look, man, I forgive you, but, you know, hold on. And I went and I called Jason and I merged the call. I was like, yo, Jason, what's up? I got Jared on the line. He's going to apologize to you. Is that cool with you? He was like, what? Right? He's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, that's so random.
Yeah.
I was like, you hold on, right? He was like, yeah, LB. I said, hey, Jared. He was like, yo, what's up? I said, I got Jason on the phone. You got to apologize to him, too. He's like, oh, Lenny, man, what? He's like, listen, Jason, I'm sorry for what I did to you back in the day, and hope you can forgive me. And he was like, yeah, Jared, not a problem, man. It's cool. It's cool. So we all had a moment of forgiveness, and we moved on. And later, I think it might have been 4th of July, I think. I forget what it says in the book, but he was going to be in the area. So I met him at my then private social club for lunch.
It is in the book.
Yeah. So we had a sit down, we had a meal, and I got up. I was like, yeah, try that shit now. And he was like, I could take you. I said, no, with that beer belly, bro. Like, you are far too out of shape to be dealing with me because I work out 3 times a week and I'm a lot bigger than you now, bro. Stop. He's like, no, I think I could take you. I'm like, yeah, keep dreaming. Yeah. And we had a good laugh at that, and we went and got a coffee and a scones, and I showed him Sunset Boulevard.
Look at you. That's great. So there's a big moment in this chapter that we alluded to earlier that I have titled Fadidas and the Art of the Steal.
Yep.
A couple things happen here.
You retitled my shit?
Yeah. I also had, when you talk about you didn't have a glove, I was like, no glove, no love could also be about baseball and the condom.
That was good. That's good.
Yeah.
When are you going to write your own book?
When I finish living the life that I have to.
All right, you leave mine alone. Right?
Yeah. But yes, tell us about the Fadidas.
Yeah. So my mom owed me $15. Now, you got to understand, back in the day around this time, I think Adidas shoes, shell top, were like $32, right? My mom owed me $15 for some gardening I've done. And so, and said, I wanted that money. I was going to get some new sneakers, and she didn't give me the money. She brought home these sneakers. They were my size, but they were orange with black stripes. Now, you know how Adidas has 3 stripes. Mm-hmm. These had 4. And I was like, oh, my God, orange sneakers with 4 black stripes. I said, man, I was so disappointed. But, I loved her for the effort. And I wore them to school thinking I could slide by, right? I can get by with this. I'm Lenny Bazemore, I had a name for myself in middle school too. So it's like, I consider myself the man. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to wear these sneakers, and boom. Man, somebody was like, yo, Lenny, why you got Halloween kicks on? Yo, he got Fadidas, fake Adidas. Yo, my heart, I was crushed. My soul was crushed, man. I was so embarrassed that I was singled out like that and judged like that. And I couldn't handle it. I was like, man, fuck you. You know what I mean? And after school, Jason, that I had mentioned, we've known each other since 5, and he's a Pisces too. So his birthday is the day after mine. So he reads me pretty well. And he was like, man, I got you. So up the street from both of our houses, right? I lived at 47 West Basin Street, and he lived right up the street, maybe 20 houses up the street, and about 5 or 6 houses up from him was his little thrift store called Fudgy Budgy. And he was like, nah, I got you. I'm going to take you to Fudgy Budgy. So we walk into Fudgy Budgy, which was, again, a thrift store. And he was like, look, check these out. These are Nikes right here. I was like, oh, yeah, Nikes. He's like, look, all you got to do is open up the window, toss these out, close the window, and we'll come back and get them later. I said, yeah, all right, cool. So that's what I did. And then later I climbed over the fence, and I had my new used Nike sneakers. And I wore them to school the next day. I did not have Halloween kicks the next day. I had Nike running shoes the next day. Now, mind you, they were far too big for my feet. But those shoes, I did not get bullied in those shoes. And I wore them to baseball.
Which is interesting because this is obviously this is pre-Jordan, and Nike. So this is before that, and this is probably in the height of
Prefontaine.
Yeah,
Prefontaine.
But we're in Run DMC territory now.
Yeah.
We're in like Adidas is the hotness,
Hot.
and I love and every person who grew up in America has a relatable story about the mom who doesn't give a shit about the style for that moment of like, they're going to be fine. Yeah. I went through it. It's like a rite of passage.
So tell me how you went through it.
So for me, oh God, I don't think I ever stopped going through it.
Shit.
I remember Abercrombie and Fitch was like the big thing when I was in like 7th grade.
Yeah.
And so you had to get a polo that had that little moose on it.
Sure.
Mom comes home.
At the mall. You went to the mall.
Yeah. She comes home with the polo and it's not a moose on there. It's just like some dude.
Polo?
And she's like, it's just as good. Oh, no. It's not
shit.
polo. It's just
you had
a guy.
Polo?
Yes.
You had polo.
I had polo. With everything. People would point out, I remember I was wearing some sort of brand called WF1.
What?
People being like, what is that? All of these brands were just knockoff brands that my mom just found in like whatever the cheap store was. Now, she did a good job, but she never really cared about brands. And this is just such a relatable piece of content, Everybody, and sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it matters.
Yeah.
Like especially if you're playing basketball or
100%.
something like that. For like your school.
Sure.
And everyone's watching you down on the court with this. That's a different story. I sometimes you got to get the Jordans.
Sometimes you do. First pair of Jordans I got was handed down to me from a friend of mine who, rest in peace, Sean McGuffey. He had these nasty old Jordans, and he was able to get some new ones, and he gave me his, and they stunk so bad, but I wore them anyway. Mm-hmm. But speaking of name brands, right, I think I was about 15, 16, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine. Now, this guy is incredibly, he's the celebrity that celebrities want to hang out with. He recently had a white party up in the Hamptons. He's a billionaire now. His name's Michael Rubin. So I grew up with Michael Rubin, right? And one day we were over his house, and he was like, hey, man, let me show you these new shirts. Went into his bedroom. He had Ralph Lauren shirts, 3 of them. And he's like, Mom, his mom came to the door. He's like, Mom, can I give Lenny one of these shirts? And she was like, yes, Michael. And he gave me my first Ralph Lauren shirt. I never took that shit off. I wore that shit to school. I was the shit.
Yeah.
Ralph Lauren.
It means a lot.
Yes.
It means a lot, especially what a great friend.
Yeah.
To notice like, hey, you don't have one of these and you should. If you're going to hang out with me, you're going to look great.
He did not care about clothes back then.
I love that.
You look on his Instagram right now, that boy can dress. He's always dressed. Fine clothes. I think, when you look good, you feel good, right? And my friend, today, your gear, you look good.
Thank you.
I know I look good.
You always look great. You always look great.
Thank you.
Another great name in this chapter, too, Skag Kotman.
Yeah.
That is a 1970s Hall of Fame name. That is awesome. This guy went to bat for you.
He did. No pun intended, right? He was an old man who drove around the neighborhood, and if he spotted you showing some athletic ability or talent, he would stop and have a conversation with you. Everybody knows him. He actually has a park back in Norristown named after him, right? So he drove down Basin Street. He pulled me to the side and said, hey, I am forming a football team for St. Pat's, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, absolutely. Football? I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we went down to Elmwood Park, and only like 7 people showed up. And that's not enough to form a team.
Yeah.
So he negotiated with St. Pat's. He negotiated with Holy Saviors, which was up the street. And they invited us 7 players down to their team practice. And little did they know they were getting me.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up being the star of that team. So that's the team that won a championship, and the director of admissions for the high school came and offered me a scholarship for 8th grade and high school. And that was a good time, right? Because I was playing football every day, and I was making a name for myself, and it was just a really good time of unity amongst us young people.
I'm also curious, as part of that deal, you guys had to go to CCD. Is that still in your life?
CCD?
Well,
I'm not a Catholic, bro.
yeah.
No.
That's what I was asking.
No. My mom and papa would dress up every Sunday, and they would go to, I believe, a Methodist church, but I was never exposed to any religion whatsoever as a kid. I know for sure that I was super proud of my grandparents because they looked dynamite, right? They looked so handsome walking out the door, and it was great to see them dress up, and my mom always had a matching hat, and it was great. It was great. But I was never exposed to any kind of religion until I had to go to CCD classes. Now, what's crazy is, every now and then they took us to church, a Catholic church, and the protocol. I didn't know the protocol. I didn't know when to get up, when to sit down, when to kneel, right? You get up, you get the little wafer in your mouth. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I'm learning it as we go. And I remember one instance when I got up and I started getting in line, and my teammate was like, "Nah, Lenny, that's not for you, man." So I sat back down, right? So, it was, I had to go to CCD in order to play Catholic League football.
And then last question, how was this real? You played baseball as a minor against a prison.
Between 15 and 18 years old. Yeah.
So that was at
Graterford Prison. Yeah.
But were you playing against kids in juvie, or were you playing against hardened men?
Hardened grown-ass men.
Oh my
that right? That played in the prison system league.
Yeah.
Right? So these guys, we were 15 to 18. We did it for 3 years. And this is not, I'm going to tell you a story that's not in the book in a little bit. So we used to go up there. We used to, walk in. The gate would close behind us. It was wild, man. We're playing with these prisoners, right? And they were good. And I'm batting off them. I'm fielding the ball off them, throwing them out. It was a very competitive game. So in this one particular game, this guy I played with, Mikey Rogas, his name is in the book. So is John Kitt. He played on my team too. John Kitt is one of the guys that I'm taking to Tulum in September. Mikey Rogas was playing right field. I was playing shortstop. And all I hear is, "Lenny, Lenny." I see this woman walking by, past Mikey. She's walking by, and she starts waving. And so I wave. And then the players on the prisoner side was like, yo, that's a guy, man. That's a guy. And then it hit me. I'm in prison. It's not a co-ed prison. I said, "Nah, man, nah, I'm good." And they all laughed. But can I tell you the joy that they felt? The pure joy that they felt after the game with us going up, high-fiving them, giving them our wristbands and our gloves and our headbands. You know what I'm saying? Batting gloves.
Yeah.
To give that to a prisoner, it was like Christmas Day for them, man. And it filled me up with so much joy to see, those grown-ass men who were in prison, right? Still in prison, getting this moment, having this moment of joy. It meant the world to me, man. So I was happy for that experience.
I love it. That's chapter 5.
I thought I was going to play in the major leagues one day. I did not.
Spoiler. All right, we'll see you in chapter 6.
All right.